So ship will be heading 073, but the line we're tracking is 152.
Okay. And that's okay for the Shiv?
Yeah,
Okay.
it should be fine. It'll be sideways out to the...
Yeah, okay. I'm going to stop the line and start the turn line for recording purposes. Calling it actually turn south, so we remember that this is like a long line.
I just had a thought. If we want to go back to the video files later and take a look at the Argus view, we have that recorded, so we could kind of check out and listen to our conversation, and so we know which point that it would be.
Well, we also have the timestamps for when it was recorded.
Cool, perfect.
Yeah.
The I mean, we can't right now, but everyone at home can rewind.
Oh yeah.
Up to 12 hours now.
Really?
So yep.
On YouTube, right? And on the website, or is it on the website?
On the website.
Okay, on the website.
On our website.
Don't
Yeah.
tell my parents that.
And then the YouTube in a couple days, I believe, they'll upload the full dive recording.
Gotcha. Right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Wow, that's new from last time I was on board.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
No,
cool.
that's
really cool.
That was new.
That's new this year.
Yeah.
Huh.
So if you're at home and you want to go back to those last two targets and tell us if we missed anything. I know I was staring at the side scan, so I,
Put in some votes.
Oh, that's nice. So when do you think we're going to send Hercules down?
Don't ask me hard questions. So I was just talking to Allison, our expedition leader, about if we were to, like, let's just say for argument's sake, we survey the entire 2 mile by 2 mile grid that we have set up at 200 meter space lines. I estimate we have another maybe 36 hours, maybe a little bit more to finish that. Because we've been going for about 20 hours since we got back in the water and started these lines. So I think another 36 hours, maybe a little bit more, to finish those. Now, we may find something that's extremely obviously the wreckage. We may find a whole bunch of smaller targets that we think are likely debris. It's really hard to say what the site's condition is, given that there was an explosion, but it was near the surface, so we don't, like, it's not an aircraft that fell out of the sky and broke up upon impact, but it did have an explosion, so we don't really know the condition. So it's unclear whether it's going to be an obvious, oh, that's it, or if it's going to be something like we just saw, where it's a series of targets that have man-made components that we need to do further work to figure out. So if the latter, we're going to, send the sonar back over targets like 30 and 31 and get a different angle on the sonar. So we would optimize, we'd run a line probably about 50 meters to one side and get them both in it from a different direction, and then probably try to position Argus over them with the camera so that we can see what it is. And at that point, if we can confirm that it is in fact aircraft wreckage, we would bring Argus up and put Hercules on. So the reason why we would be so careful is because, as you saw yesterday, it's about 3 hours for Argus to do the full ascent and descent after we bring it back on deck. And also, it's about a 6 to 8 hour job to reattach the tether and Hercules to Argus. So we don't want to just, pull everything and be like, okay, let's just go in right now and take a look, because we're looking at quite a bit of time to do that, and we only have 6 days out here total. So we want to make sure that that we're using our time wisely and also making good decisions with the information that we have.
Perfect, thank you. I hope that responds some of the questions that we have been receiving from our followers. And good morning to the people in the Netherlands.
That's the 7th sea cucumber I've seen.
More cucumbers?
Yeah, passed under.
Since when? 4 p.m.?
What?
For
When
today?
did you start counting?
Whenever I saw the first one.
Not helpful.
Is it this watch?
7 in your life? 7 since 4 p.m.?
Well, it's
7
probably the same answer because he only figured out what they were recently.
Yeah, just now.
You know, he has them in his backyard as a kid. He just know what they were.
Yeah. No, I don't know when I started. This watch or last watch?
So does anyone know why our Argus dives are labeled R1050 something
Instead of A?
instead of A?
No, but I was wondering that.
Yeah.
'Cause it's a silent A.
I know. I'm just
Yeah.
wanting to see if any of you.
Is
got-
it because A is for ASV now?
Well,
No.
ASV says
Oh.
ASV, you know? Like it's got the whole thing.
And
Is
the
it-
ASV is really new, and they, you know, they've had Argus only dives for a while.
Yeah, they have 1,056. Because
Is it maybe because of Argo?
sounds
Nope.
like
The,
because it's a
Not Argo,
pirate.
but there was a vehicle that started with A that
Alvin.
existed.
Mm.
It was an AUV called Atalanta that they used in 2006 and then unfortunately lost off of Newfoundland.
Oh
So
yeah,
the
Mark told me that
A-
story.
1001 through, they didn't do many dives with it. I forget how many. So the A value, it was pre-Nautilus, and they lost it even before still. But we started this because it was Herc and Argus numbering system actually started in 2006, not with Nautilus. So, what number of Herc dive are we on? 1764.
1764. Yeah.
So that's not Nautilus Hercules dives. That's actually Hercules dives since 2006.
Mm.
Oh, cool.
So they basically retired that letter?
I mean, technically it still exists, but yeah, that vehicle does not.
A is still in the
A is
alphabet.
Wait a
no
second,
longer a
letters
letter.
Well,
retired?
are you saying it's like a procedural thing, or is it like a commemoration of that, you know, or like a superstition thing?
I mean, to be honest, I don't really know. Everybody who was around during that time does not work for Nautilus anymore. So the I guess they could have something called A 1000 for the dives if they wanted to name a new vehicle that. I don't know. I wonder what they're going to call Little. So Little Herc is now on board.
It's,
Do they have
it
that?
has LH.
LH.
LH. See, it could have just been
Oh,
L,
Little
couldn't
Herc.
it?
It could have.
Have they done dives with it? Like
2.
two?
So.
And is it just 002?
Yep.
See, it
But
should
is
be
that number the
1002.
next dive, or is that
That-
number?
That's number is the next
That's the
dive.
See,
next
but
dive.
that, oh,
So
so
they've
they've
only
done one.
done
They've done one dive.
Oh, true.
So that means that once they hit 999 dives, they can't do anymore.
Right.
Which we did do. We have hit that with Herc. Oh no, you haven't. No,
No, you got. Well, you're saying there's 760.
because it
Herc dives
starts
completed.
with 1. Yeah, so it started with a 1. So you haven't actually hit 999.
Why wouldn't they start with 0004?
Because they didn't. So the numbering system was H1001, R1001, E1001 was Echo, which is an old side scan, and then D1001 was Diana, which is the towfish that this side scan came from. And each expedition number was C1000 something, And so the first 3 Nautilus dives, NA001, 2, and 3, were back named that. They were initially C1000, 8, 9, and 10.
Wow.
And C1010 and NA003 actually have 0 data because it was when we were going to be in the Black Sea, and Ukraine did not give us a permit, so we floated around in the Black Sea for a couple of days and then went back to Istanbul and flew home. So there's not any actual data for NA003. But it had been, like, event log had been created and it had been listed on the website, so they decided to not have something else called NA003. Just some history.
That's some
trivia.
cool history.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd forgotten that we called Argus R, and I was like, until like I got here the other day, and I was like, oh yeah, they're going to be R numbers. Which is weird.
I was gonna say because it's a pirate's favorite letter.
Yeah.
We could just put some tape over the A on the vessel,
Yeah,
on the
right.
vehicle. And,
Argus. I like that.
What is it,
Argus.
August?
Agus. Oh yeah, just
Agus.
cross off the R actually.
Yeah, that's
AHGUS.
I guess.
Agus.
So, how much of the area do you think has been scanned so far?
What are we at, like a quarter, maybe a third?
Um,
Down 6 lines out of like 20 something?
22. Some lines are shorter than others,
Yeah.
so let's say 20 lines.
Okay.
So almost a third.
Okay. And good morning, Switzerland. Nice to have you with us.
What's the actual heading that the ship is tracking?
Uh,
Do you know?
078 as the way we're facing.
No, like, sorry,
Oh,
the
like
like
the
direction
line?
of the line.
152.
Okay.
Going sideways, we're using a little bow thruster, so USBL might still
Make
stink.
some noise.
So to respond to a question from our follower, URI means University of Rhode Island.
that's the that's where the Inner Space Center is located and the headquarters of the Ocean Exploration Trust, I believe.
Home port.
Not actually.
It's, it's home for, like, you know what I mean. Not like home port for the ship. Yeah, home port for the ship means something different.
Someone in Argus.
Who was it that used to think those gauges were on?
Ready?
So the little like pulsing one was a copepod, and then that swimming one was a shrimp.
Cool.
That's how you tell them apart.
Say it again?
There was 2 small reddish creatures on the bottom right-hand corner of the Argus cam.
Mm-hmm.
One was like pulsing as it moved and kind of like was, I guess, like flicking at the water, and the other one was like gliding with all of its like legs out. Yeah. So the first one was a copepod, and the second one was a shrimp.
Mm. Okay, thank
Fun
you.
fact, shrimp have 26 legs.
Oh, that is a fun
How
fact.
many are for walking?
There's 5 pairs for walking, I believe. There's 5 for swimming, and then 3 pairs for eating.
Yum, yum.
Gotta go around the other side.
What do you mean?
No, Bobby Argus.
Oh.
Failed the test.
She didn't go over there before. Whenever I'm down there, I'm like, oh, there's a lot of cameras
Somebody's
on
watching you. Yeah.
It seems like a nice private place, but there's cameras everywhere.
Yeah.
If you want to see what Wendy and Mike were just talking about in the quad view, you can see the 4 cameras in our winch hold. So this is inside the belly of the ship, and it is the winch that pulls the cable and releases the cable that Argus is attached to right now. So it's got something close to 4,000 meters of cable on there.
Whoa.
That's 8 sea cucumbers.
And that cable is the 6/8 cable, you call it?
Yep.
0.68
Your mic's not on, Mike.
inches in
Yep.
diameter.
0.68 inches.
And in that cable is the fiber optics that allow us to have video feeds and control of the ROVs, as well as
And the juice.
power for the ROVs.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Very special cable.
Custom made.
Cool if you look up videos how they make these umbilicals. It's just a big, giant, huge room, giant turret with all the different parts that go in there. All the conductors and fiber optics goes around in a spool.
Is that the next one is 8, or the one that you just saw is 8?
No, what I just saw is 8.
Oh, you got it right,
So-
9.
What? No.
The next cucumber is 9.
No,
No,
I guess
it's
no.
only
No, because that's the
Oh, that's only
current
there.
time zone
in
and
the
cruise
water.
ID.
Alright.
The current number.
All right.
Navigator Chris has just started a whiteboard tally of his sea cucumbers he's spotted.
You have to see if the other watches update it.
Yeah, I'll have to pass that down.
Yep.
We're gonna start erasing them.
No.
No, we won't do that.
This is important scientific data.
The whiteboard
Yes.
tally.
Yep.
Who is the next navigator?
Coming up is Miles. He is our lead navigator on this cruise.
You think he's going to update it?
No.
How are you so sure?
I just have this feeling.
He's seen one too many sea cucumbers in his day, probably, to want to count.
You know, these ones might be sea cucumbers, the ones that are floating slightly off the seafloor. Are you counting those?
I'm going with the hard conformations, you know,
Gotcha.
they're right up in Argus cam. I don't want any false cucumbers slipping into my count.
Understandable.
None of these tofu cumbers.
We could zoom on that, maybe.
Okay,
What are
coming
we
in.
zooming on?
Oh no.
Oh, it's too
These
fuzzy.
look like more like an enemy type.
Yeah.
Thing.
But the
Yeah.
shadow under it
Yeah.
is off the bottom.
Nope, not a positive
Yeah,
identification
it's
there.
too fuzzy. Sorry. Oh. Good morning. It's night.
Yeah.
So if you hear some chatting here, it's like we're about to switch our watch. So we have our colleagues coming into the van.
Sounds like Miles just might count sea cucumbers after all.
Welcome to the people in the Philippines that are following us now.
Good check. What's that?
In channel 1, you're gonna see some images of target, I think it's 30. Yeah, target 30 that we just saw a couple minutes ago with this very interesting feature that we think may not be just rocks. Well, it was great to be with you all. And now I'm going to go to sleep. And Maddie is going to be in charge of the communications. So bye-bye.
Bye, Valeria.
See you soon.
All right, hello team. I missed you all so much.
Hi, Maddie.
All right, well, we have our watch handoff going on. Some chit chat in the back, but Madison here and the rest of the 2000 to 000 hours, I think that's how you say it. And we are still side scan mapping the ocean floor, looking for some objects that could be made by humans. I'm looking at our map here of the world, and we've got some people from the US, the UK, Australia, New Zealand, Turkey, the Netherlands, Germany, Switzerland, and Barbados. So right on, welcome. I'm looking over our chat here from the last watch, and it looks like they went through a whole series of telling jokes. Some pretty solid ones. Do you guys want to hear any? I'm curious if you've heard it before. What do you call a cow with no legs? Ground beef.
Oh no.
I know.
That's bad.
They're pretty good. No, it's great.
Some interesting shadows there.
Yeah, is that a... What do you think that is? Is it a rock?
Which do you mean?
We'll never know now.
We'll never know.
There was like 4 consecutive shadows that looked the same on the lower left.
Huh. All right, so Dee, last I heard we were at, I think, 23 marked potentials.
So our current target number is 31. So
Wow.
we're increasing in numbers, which is a good thing, as well as the 2 most recent targets are pretty interesting. So we're doing good. We're heading south onto our next line, which will be, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've covered 6 lines, so we'll be our 7th line.
Cool. And 7th line. So what percentage are we just in terms of slowly chugging along here?
Yeah, I can't remember the total lines that were laid out in the initial survey, but we're sort of focusing more on the southern area based upon reports that the wreckage was drifting in a southwest orientation. Mm-hmm. So sort of the southern area is a higher priority than the northern area of our survey box.
I see. And then of these last few targets or potential targets, what made them so interesting? I mean, is it something that maybe we haven't yet seen that is so striking?
They appear to be larger targets with round-like features along the top, possibly indicating, what an engine shape would look like. And there were 2 targets relatively close together, which is a good sign as well.
Wow, yeah, very exciting stuff.
Yes, yes. It's always on a change of watch, too.
I know, right?
Yeah, really, seriously. Who gets credit?
So that just happened. That's what all the commotion was back there.
Yeah, no joke.
Wow, too cool, too cool.
It's a group effort, so.
Always.
Yeah. So yeah, we're chugging along. We're making good progress. Everything is working perfectly. We have a excellent sonar signal, and Zeus's camera is an amazing thing. Excuse me, Argus's camera.
Yep.
My bad. My bad.
Just another mythological.
Yeah. It seems to be a trend of naming remotely operated vehicles and underwater vehicles off of Greek gods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, okay, so which other ones do we have? We have Hercules, obviously.
Yeah.
Are there others? Was Argo a
I
god?
don't know. I've certainly worked with one named Gila.
Okay.
And Kraken, which is a sea monster, so in that same vein. Yeah.
Cool. I mean, it's fitting, right? Having this kind of otherworldly creature going down to the depths.
Appropriate name.
Yeah.
Rather that than like Bob. Like really.
Bodie McBoatface.
Yeah. Oh, that's horrible. I can't believe that they went through with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Naming contest backfired right there.
Yeah.
You can't upset the children, right?
It's true. I know. I would have loved to have had credit for that one, though, right? And then, yeah, so we're seeing some rocks down below, which is kind of exciting. But earlier when we were downstairs in the lodge, you were saying that you wanted to see, or the lounge, you wanted to see more of that muddy bottom. Is that just because it's easier to sort of get a signal off of?
Yeah, the muddy bottom is definitely easier to locate objects in. There's less interference from rocks that might be in the surrounding area. We're about 20 minutes away from starting our next line, and based upon the vessel speed, it's taking about 2 hours to complete one of those lines.
Cool, and we are just starting our 4-hour watch, so maybe we'll knock out 2 of them.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah, right?
Now that everything's working good, the ship is making the turns amazing, so I think the routine has begun.
And so looking at this sort of chart that's at the satellite feed 3, are those the lines as we're following them? Is that what we're seeing?
Yes, so the bluish image in the quad view that everybody is tuning in is a HiPAC navigation software that allows us to plan track lines, and you can actually see a little boat-shaped vessel that's moving south, followed by Argus that's trailing behind, leaving the green marks where it was at. So this is what the bridge and the navigation team uses to plot the course and keep the vessel in the right direction.
Very cool. And then these lines, these black lines that are kind of running diagonal to Argus, are those still other lines that we hope to get to, or?
Yeah, so the black ones are the ones that we've completed.
Okay.
The red one is the one that we are currently headed to. There's little arrows that show the direction of transit the ship's going to take. And then the green ones that are a little faint are the ones that we have not done yet. The numbers that you see on there with a little a cross next to them are the targets that have been marked. So we not only mark the targets in HiPAC, the navigation software, we also mark them within the side scan sonar software as well.
And then those ones that you mentioned that were sort of congregated towards one another, can we see those on this chart, or is that maybe in a different version?
It's a little too far at the top of the screen. It was at the tail end of our last line, so just off of our screen. And now you can actually see them. It's if you follow the the green track of Argus, there's a 31 and a 30. Those were the 2 targets of interest that we just located.
And do we have sort of an idea maybe of how close those potential targets were, or those measurements come later maybe?
Yeah, so the survey lines, the track lines are spaced 200 meters apart. So each line has a distance of 200 meters. So just rough eyeballing it, we're looking, there may be half that distance apart, roughly, give or take a little bit.
Someone just asked if we're in a part of the world that will see the lunar eclipse, and I'm doing a little bit of research here, and it looks like it's a partial lunar eclipse on July 16th, and it'll be visible from Australia, Africa, and South America, which is pretty close to where we are. I mean, maybe off Australia-ish.
The solar eclipse that happened a couple weeks ago was also visible in South America, but we were just too far west and north, so
Oh,
it
gotcha.
depends. They might just be listing the continents you could see it from.
Yeah.
So maybe
It would be cool. Looking at the moon when we were walking in, it's kind of crazy out there. It's super bright, super full.
Miles might know this.
Beg your pardon?
The so lunar eclipse today.
Yeah, it's on Tuesday, which could be, this morning, tonight.
Are we gonna be able to see it from here?
Hopefully, it's listed as a partial lunar eclipse in my calendar, but that's probably North American centric. So we'll see some obscurities, but I don't think it's full anywhere.
Yeah, NASA chart looks like we're kind of in the no see zone for that one. Maybe next time. So Dee, as we're looking for these potential targets, what helps us determine what they might be and what sort of sets those apart, you know, from maybe just biological features?
So we are looking for objects that have characteristics of being man-made. Most of the C4 is going to have geologic features such as rocks and boulders, sand waves, you know, things that are non-linear, that are round, whereas man-made objects such as airplanes, shipwrecks, other things like that have straight features for the most part, possible right angles, as well as the material that they are made out of. So objects that are aluminum, like the Simone Clipper, as well as iron or steel, have a different characteristic that is observed by the side scan sonar. So it's not only the shape, it's also sort of the brightness as well as the shape of the shadow that is produced.
And for those that are looking at the side scan sonar at home, you know, what does that look like? I mean, we see a lot of yellow on here now, but it's shifting and squiggly, and it's not quite those linear edges that we're talking about, right?
Yep. So what you are looking at in the top left screen is the side scan sonar view. There are 2 channels to that sonar that have 2 different frequencies it's operating on. The top is a high frequency at 600 kilohertz, and the bottom is a low frequency at 300 kilohertz. Both of these image the seafloor at a slightly sort of different resolution. Sometimes you can pick out an object with more clarity in one versus the other, so that's why you run 2 of them. The black line that runs down the center is sort of the dead zone, the blank zone, where there is no data being picked up. This is based upon the angle that the acoustic signals are sent out and come back to the towfish, and just as a result, there is a dead spot directly underneath. So we are lucky enough to have a camera system on board Argus that is picking up that dead zone. So that's a unique aspect right now. Normally you would not have a camera system as well as a side scan sonar system being towed at the same time. Plus it's just pretty cool to be able to see the seafloor in the side scan sonar image and then what you're actually seeing on the bottom. So the squiggles and such could be rocks, and there's also some inherent movement of the vehicle as it's being towed through the water that causes some of that squiggliness. Technical term, of course.
Always technical.
Yeah.
We're about to enter 9, right? Line 9?
That's correct.
Oh.
Line 9.
Yep.
9.
Were you talking about the USBL squiggliness?
No, just the ship, the Argus movement squiggliness.
Roger.
Yeah. Is that just based on the rate that the signal is sent back and forth?
Yes, but it gets extra wiggly when we use our bow thruster.
Oh, okay. Does that interfere with the signal?
Yeah, the noise generated by our bow thruster is sort of around the same frequency as our USBL chirp, so they don't always play well together.
They don't get along. just to provide some more information on what a side scan sonar is, it's a acoustic device that sends out sound waves that bounce off of objects on the seafloor. The same theory as bats echolocating or dolphins sending out those sound signals, and then it's all coming back and interpreted by the computer, which produces the image that you see, that waterfall image.
And we're cruising along just under 3,300 meters. What sort of conditions, I mean, are we looking at, and how would they affect the makeup of the Samoan Clipper? You know, it was an aircraft that was made out of aluminum, but we're at a super deep part of the ocean. It's very, very cold. There's no light that gets down there. You know, so is it affected by the elements?
Yeah, I mean, this is Russ Matthews, by the way. Yes, it can be, but as you pointed out, because of the great depth, because of the cold and the lack of light and the lack of microorganisms at that depth, we don't expect to see the kind of corrosion that you would expect in a shallow water wreck, and one that would be affected by tide and storm surges and things like that. So the Samoan Clipper should lay just where it fell 81 years ago, and should have been protected from natural elements and from human interaction, even deliberate or inadvertent. As no one has looked for this aircraft since shortly after it was lost, and there isn't any commercial fishing at this great depth. So we expect that it should be nearly as it was when it was lost. We have some recent examples of deep water aircraft wrecks that have been located in the last few years. The Turkish Navy found a Air France Constellation that was ditched into the Mediterranean in 1953, and you can still read the Air France logo on the side of the aircraft. And in March of last year, the research vessel Petrel, which was run by the late Paul Allen's group, they located the wreck of an American aircraft carrier that was sunk at the Battle of the Coral Sea off Australia. And that ship was lost with a good portion of its air group still spotted on deck. And those aircraft ended up in the surrounding debris field and were photographed and videotaped, and the images that were sent back were nothing short of stunning. They show the airplanes looking, virtually as if they'd been placed there the day before. In some cases, the paintwork was still bright, and you could read the national insignia and the fuselage codes, the squadron markings, even the Bureau of Air Commerce, the Navy bureau number on the tail, the Aeronautics Bureau number on the tail, and which is remarkable in itself because the tail surfaces on especially on the Douglas TBD-1 Devastator aircraft where they were found was covered in doped fabric, organic material that again had survived in pristine condition. You can see the very distinctive red and white stripes, the 13 red and white stripes on the rudders, and so yeah, we in considering this site, it is virtually the same depth and nearly the same vintage. The Lexington was lost in May of 1942, and so just over 4 years since the January 1938 loss of Samoan Clipper. So, you know, it's only 4 years, you know, separating the two of them, and so it's, you know, we like to think that that it's reasonable to expect that the same kind of conditions may prevail here off of American Samoa.
And Russ, you and Mike had a pretty exciting moment at the shift change. Do you want to talk a little bit about what you guys were looking at and you know what that means?
Oh,